Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? I'm still pretty sick, so this is probably going to still sound kind of muted. Don't worry, I got plenty of flu meds and cigarettes to help get me through it. So I was listening to some of my old reviews the other day, because I'll do that sometimes. If I've got like a long walk or something and I can't find something else good to listen to, I'll just pull up like a random review that I've done before. Because the way my memory works, like if I haven't read a book within the last year, chances are I've forgotten completely what's in it. So like the reviews are kind of like, hey, I get to relive this book. And, like from the point of view of me. It's like, this guy makes some good points. So yeah, I was doing that, and the review for Sabretooth #1 came up. It's like, oh shit, yeah, that was a fun book, wasn't it? Went through it, it's like, hell yeah, it was. So much so that I want to actually kind of follow up on that and see how Sabretooth #2 is. This kind of has the potential to be a legitimately great comic. We've got Mark Texeira at, arguably the peak of his artistic powers, and also Larry Hama, arguably at the peak of his not giving a fuck. Not worrying at all about realism, just I'm going to go and make the dumbest action movie I think I can come up with. And honestly, I'm here for that. I am all for it. So yeah, we're going to take a look at Sabretooth #2 today. This is Sabretooth Death Hunt. Again, when you kind of can tell Larry's not too invested in coming up with kind of going to make you think kind of storylines when he's going to title it Death Hunt. So before we get into this, I should remind you about the Blood Force Kickstarter that's coming up soon. We'll see how much of it I can remember in my beleaguered state. But I've now got everything I need to put together the pre-launch page. It's just a matter of putting it together. So that's what I'm planning to do this weekend. Just spend a shit ton of time on Photoshop and just get everything together, get it all done, and hopefully get the pre-launch page up for next week. So, hey, we finally got something resembling a date. So once that's up, I figure somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 weeks of just, like me trying to build a little bit of buzz, and then we'll be good to go on the campaign. And then you'll be able to get your physical copies of Blood Force #1. Friggin' finally. Whose idea was it to wait that long? I had to kick that guy in the knee. So yeah, keep an eye out. The Blood Force Kickstarter is going to be coming soon. Pretty soon, you won't be able to get away from me trying to show this thing. I'll probably be coming up with something a bit more market-friendly for the actual campaign. This is more like insider stuff right here, I think. I hope. But yeah, Blood Force #1 coming soon. So let's get back now to Sabretooth #2 coming now. Oh no, not in Mystique's hair. So yeah, if we recall what was going on in the Sabretooth miniseries in issue 1, it wasn't super complicated. Sabretooth got captured by commandos who I believe were working in concert with ninjas for some dude in a Transformer cosplay outfit. So yeah, they took him back to their Weapon X lab and they loaded him up with all sorts of techno stuff and more muscles. They added lats. They added so many lats. And they also hooked him up with a bomb because, of course, they did. If they're going to open him up and they're going to try and get him to do stuff, you got to hook Sabretooth up with a bomb. But now he's Turbo Sabretooth. That was actually what they called him because this series is amazing. And the guy running the show is going to be sending Sabretooth to kill Mystique. So yeah, that's pretty much everything from that first one. So let's get into this. We can start with the cover. We're getting Mark Silvestri painted covers for this series, which is pretty great. And Tex is kind of done with this restraint bullshit that people have been talking about. So we're going to get Tex's version of Mystique, which is all barbarellaed up. It's pretty great. Get all the edge-lit frizzy hair here. That's fantastic looking stuff. Get an uplit Sabretooth and his foot-long claws. Try going to the bathroom with those. Great look for a cover, though. It's nice and menacing. And we actually get like some contrast with color, because we got orange Sabretooth with blue Mystique. I noticed that just now. All right, so this is a kiss before dying. So Sabretooth has been released from his Weapon X facility. He's been turned loose, and the first place he's going to go is back to the mansion that he was staying at. He was staying at a mansion. Nobody knows why. Nobody's going to tell Sabretooth to leave, though. So the reason he's here is because he's chasing down his old, not really partner, more like kind of captive, Birdie, who's a telepath with gigantic guns. And Sabretooth tends to treat Birdie like shit. And it got to a point where Birdie had enough, and she called in the hit, basically, on Sabretooth to get him captured. So now he's come back for his revenge, and he's going to start out by punting open the door, exploding it into a million pieces. Mark Texeira is not worrying about making anything any kind of realistic, like I said. So we're not trying to come up with a stance where you're working with, like, leverage. The legs just work independently like G.I. Joe figures. You just flip one up and it boots the door down. And we get a great low angle. Like, Sabretooth looks like he's about the size of, like a 3-story brownstone. and he's yelling for Birdie that he's home and she's going to get hers. And we get our credits here. Larry Hama as the writer, Mark Teixeira as the artist, pencils and inks. Kind of. Michael Baer is also helping out as art assists. I'm not sure exactly what that means in this context. It might just mean doing a little bit of finishing on top of everything. It might mean doing some backgrounds. That wouldn't surprise me either. Michael Baer's a good guy for that kind of thing. He's got a lot of fundamentals. He's even got a little bit of style. Michael Baer just doesn't quite have the style that fits with, like what people want in 1993. And what people mostly want in 1993 is image art in 1992. But, Michael Baer's totally solid. He's a guy you could absolutely get to draw his own comic for a while. It probably wouldn't be a top seller, but, if you've got a good writer on there, it can totally hold its own. All right, so Sabretooth's going to go stomping up the stairs. He's yelling up there like, now I know what kind of bird you are. You're a stool pigeon. You ratted me out, Birdie. So he's obviously coming upstairs to murder Birdie, which Birdie is not even remotely surprised about. Gets upstairs. The place she was already packing when he came in, and then she went, fuck it, and leapt out the window. Because she knows Sabretooth well enough to know that, if he's in the house, she has no time whatsoever. So, yeah, Sabretooth busts in, goes, where'd you go? You flew the coop? Looks out the window, sees her stealing his ride, his convertible, and leaps down. Looks like he's larger than the car, which is great. And he's like, hold on, girl, I just need to talk to you. She goes immediately, no way, Mr. Creed, and tears out of there. She's like, you only have meaningful conversations with people when you're killing them. So, not having anything to do with this, Sabretooth is like, she may have bogarted my baddest ride, but I still got a whole garage full of... And then he looks around and realizes that she slashed all his tires. Looks like he's got a fucking Lambo in there and all that shit. But turns out that he has a secret cache of emergency vehicles hidden behind the wall in his garage. He just has to slash it open. So naturally he's going to do that. I will say I don't know whether or not this is Marvel Method or to what degree this is Marvel Method. It's hard to tell. If it isn't, then it feels like Larry Hama is absolutely taking the piss. If it is, it feels like maybe Mark Teixeira is taking the piss. Somebody is not taking this book particularly seriously. It might be both of them. So, turns out that Sabretooth was keeping a Harley inside the wall of his garage, and a Harley with nitrous at that. So now he's going to go tearing after Birdie down the highway, catches up to her pretty quickly. One of the cars here cusses her out for almost cutting him off, and so Sabretooth is like, nobody talks to Birdie that way except me, and goes riding over the top of the car. And meanwhile, he's yelling the whole way, just like, I'm going to catch you, Birdie. Rat me out and trash my wheels. Girl, you are going to pay. Great shots of Sabretooth on the motorcycle, which shouldn't surprise anybody, of course. Mark Teixeira spent a good couple of years drawing incredible shots of Ghost Rider on a motorcycle. That was half the point of that book. Look how cool a flaming skull-headed demon looks on a motorcycle when Mark Teixeira's drawing him. So the only thing that's kind of off with this page is this the bottom panel here, this close-up on Sabretooth, which, just kind of a non-expression with non-dramatic lighting. It's kind of strange. It feels unfinished. And, just kind of makes me think about the fact that there's some ink assists going on this, or art assists, I think it was. Makes me think that part of this book is having to get rushed out there. And maybe that was one of the panels that got kind of skated over. But I mean, those kind of panels aren't showing up very often in this. A lot of this does seem like there's a fair amount of effort going on in here. So I think what the deal here is that they're going down the highway and Birdie manages to take herself down an off-ramp that's being cut off for construction. That seems to be the case, although it's not really explained. She does a U-E and heads straight at Sabretooth, runs him down in the street, leaves the motorcycle behind her and goes, where's his body? And starts panicking, because she knows how dangerous he is, and it turns out that he's managed to hang on to the car somehow, and is climbing into the passenger seat. And yeah, she just starts freaking out here. It's a pretty good looking page here. He's managed, I like the close-up on the head here, that he's managed to pop out through a few panels here. That's alright, great looking impact here on an angle. Doesn't look as though Sabretooth could get sucked under the car and hang on and, fight his way up to the passenger seat, but sure, let's say he did that. Birdie pulls a gun on Sabretooth, he just slaps it out of her hand, and then she just starts going through the rail here. And yeah, they're just going to go plummeting down onto another road down below here. And while they're in midair, Sabretooth grabs her, says, do it. And what they're going to do is she's going to go telepathically into his mind. This is something that happened a little bit in the previous issue, where she kind of goes into his mind and like kind of roots around, brings up old memories, and it kind of calms him. And while they're stuck in his mind, it seems as though their perception of time slows way down. So it seems kind of pointless because, I mean, it could be done as a way to kind of stop things, to have a bit of a conversation about options, maybe, theoretically, in a different situation, one where Sabretooth isn't chasing her and, you know, she doesn't think that he's trying to kill her. But this is going to be used more as just a way to do a little bit of backstory, mostly from the last issue, to do some catch-up for anybody who missed the first one. So we get the very end of the last issue where Sabretooth's tied down on the Weapon X table, getting the bomb implanted in his chest, and he's getting his assignment to go and kill Mystique. Some interesting looking stuff going on here. Like, I love this face that he's got on Birdie here. That looks absolutely great. Some very dramatic looking lighting. When she goes into Sabretooth's mind, Sabretooth himself is kind of represented as a childish version of himself. I think this series is one of the first ones that kind of touches on Sabretooth's childhood, whatever that would have been. And in the first one, it seemed very much like he was treated like an abused animal, where he was just kind of chained up in the basement and muzzled and everything. So we're going to also be touching on that in this one here. So the memory keeps going past where we saw at the end of the last issue, where the Transformer-looking guy goes back to his monitor right after Sabretooth promises that he's going to be coming after him to hunt him down. And he goes, okay, well, how are you even going to do that? You don't know where you are. You don't know who I am. And after we're finished here, we're just going to knock you out and put you back where we found you. Does a little bippity-booping on a keyboard, pulls up his assistant, and tells her to wipe his slate for the rest of the day. And we meet back up with reality as the car hits the pavement, apparently does not smash. I was lucky, I suppose. And they just kind of take off down the road again. And Sabretooth's like, I feel better already. Says, don't know what I'd do without you, Birdie. I might just feel bad for a whole 2 or 3 minutes if I was to really rip your head off one of these days. So, like, yeah, Sabretooth he's calm now. After having gone through a little bit of, I don't know, psychic massaging. Had a fun little chase sequence. Chase sequence is over now. So now we go back to Birdie being his unwilling partner. Mostly because she knows that, you know, if she tries to run or anything, he's just going to hunt her down and probably gut her. All right, so elsewhere, back at the Weapon X facility, the dude in the Transformer outfit, who, you know, I did read ahead. I know who that is, but they're not going to tell us just yet. He's asking for a report on what's going on with Sabretooth. So his assistant, I think this is the same one who he was talking with earlier, confirms that Sabretooth is dropped off back at the place that he was picked up from. She gives him the latest surveillance reports on Mystique, and he just wants to make sure that none of these inquiries can be traced back to him, which she also confirms. Everything here looks all right, you know, but we are slowing down a little bit. But of course, we did start with a high-speed chase between a convertible and a Harley, so it's tough to kind of keep that going throughout the issue. Weird-ass pose that he came up with for this woman here, I will say that. She looks kind of, weirdly out of proportion and a little bit tossed off. But there's also some good stuff here, like this control panel area here. This does look pretty fantastic. I don't think that Tex is trying too hard to come up with these patterns. You know, they do seem to be just something that he's able to whip off fairly easily, but it does look kind of nice. It looks kind of dense. All right, so back at Sabretooth's mansion, or, you know, the mansion that he's kind of stolen, Birdie and Sabretooth pull up, and somebody spray-painted Paris on the wall. And Sabretooth intuits that this is the location of the target, Mystique. So, you know, the ninjas or the mercs or whoever who picked him up, while he was out chasing down Birdie, they came and, they just kind of spray-painted where he's got to go to next. So Birdie gets to book the 2 tickets to Froggyland. She asks, does that mean you're not going to kill me? And he goes, not, at least not for the time being, Birdie, as he punches a random ninja. This ninja will not be coming, like, there are no other ninjas in this comic. And I'm actually just noticing that a ninja snuck up on the car here. Like, this is not very well called attention to. But yeah, this is the only ninja in the book. He runs up behind them when they pull up and gets back-fisted. In an awesome-looking panel, I will also say. All that musculature looks absolutely fantastic. And, you know, good shot of the extreme close-up on Birdie from the low angle here. All right, so that's where we're going to take a break from Sabretooth for the moment. I'm not sure what this is here. Sega Genesis X-Men game. All right. Sounds vaguely familiar. So from there, we're going to cut to Paris. And I wonder if this looks like a photo that was kind of merged with a drawing of some buildings. I don't know if these were light box, and this feels like, yeah, it's not even a drawing at this point. It is tough to tell where the merging point is, though, so I feel like they executed that fairly well. So Mystique is here. She's got a date later, like an hour later, and she's dressed in very little at the moment. And she's kind of talking to herself because we need some kind of narration or dialogue or something to kind of keep this going so you're not just flipping on to the next page immediately. So at the moment, she's kind of refuting earlier stances she's had about not being herself or losing her identity with the whole shapeshifting thing. At this point, at least, she's embracing being a shapeshifter, I think just so that they can have some fun switching up her look fairly often. She decides that the blue weirdo isn't the real her. The real her is whatever she decides to be at the moment. And at the moment, she decides she wants to be a bad girl. So naturally, she's just going to, for no reason at all, morph into a hot chick in lingerie. And it's a great shot of a hot chick in lingerie, I'll give it that. But like this bit here and this bit here with, punching the disappearing and reappearing ninja, like both of these kind of, it reinforced the opinion I've got that. All right, so now we're over in Paris. I take it all this has happened, like we're not cutting immediately from Sabretooth and Birdie in the car outside the place to Mystique at, basically the same time in Paris. I mean, I guess for one thing, it's night in both places. That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So, in the meantime, Sabretooth has traveled to Paris, and he's running along rooftops because I guess he didn't want to change out of his leotard. In a panel, I'm reasonably sure Rob Liefeld stole for a Hawk and Dove thing. It's not exactly the same, but the angle's exactly the same. The pose is pretty close. It's all simplified up in here, and it's just interesting because I've never seen this referenced before. Like, the many times that Liefeld gets called out for swipes, which he does often. I feel like I've never seen this one in particular mentioned, and I feel like I found this. So that makes me happy. Absolutely fantastic looking figure. It looks absolutely massive. He's crossing over into the next panel and everything. Huge thick line around him. It feels like he's got a lot of weight to him, a lot of mass. Great looking shadow, great looking musculature as usual. Again, doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the story. He could just, change his clothes, but we're not writing that kind of story. This isn't a story where things have to make sense. This is a story where shit's gonna look cool and fun stuff is gonna happen. So, Birdie's on the radio, nice close-up here, with Sabretooth, and confirms that he's on the rooftop of the building where Mystique is staying. So, that's where he's going to stop here. Absolutely fantastic-looking panel. Great-looking backgrounds here. I don't know if this is text. This all looks pretty precise. This might be the kind of thing that Michael Baer might have been working on. But, the figure here, great-looking lighting. We're not seeing a ton of him, but, the stuff we are seeing all feels correct. So it goes smashing through the window, and, Mystique is just kind of standing in front of a mirror and grabs her by the throat. Says, you look just like your picture, but a sneaky little shapeshifter could just change herself like that. So I'm not sure what the point is there. It would make more sense if he busted in and there was somebody who didn't look like Mystique, and he went, yeah, okay, maybe you don't look like the person I'm looking for, but a sneaky little shapeshifter could change her appearance just like that. So, whatever there. But he does note her scent, and, Sabretooth has the animalistic Wolverine thing where he's got the enhanced senses and everything, so he's going to remember her smell going forward. So Mystique splashes a whole bunch of cognac all over him, says Martelli soap. Apparently Sabretooth enjoys the taste. What he doesn't enjoy is that she's also got a lighter that she ignites him with. Great looking shot here. Fun looking panel. Fun lighting. The figure itself looks ridiculous. Every time they do a full body shot of Sabretooth, it just looks insane because his upper body is so much larger than his lower body. It's great. I like this shot here of Sabretooth as well, where he's getting splashed. Where I guess most of this panel would have been black, and a kind of scratchily done Sabretooth here, and then just a whole bunch of white media thrown on top of it. But it looks really good. So, okay, after torching Sabretooth, Mystique naturally is going to run off, but now Sabretooth has her scent and he can track her down pretty easily. Weird looking shot of Sabretooth here at the bottom, just in that it doesn't really feel much like Tex. You know, no double lighting, no edge lighting, none of that. We're not getting like conflicting light sources. I wouldn't say it looks like Michael Bayer either, so it's just, I don't know, I guess it's just a Tex face. It doesn't look a whole lot like a Tex face. All right, so Mystique's running away, and, you know, she's going to start changing her appearance, because naturally, you know, she wants to try and slip away. Gets a second where she turns into, like, you know, like full-on, like, streetwalker, and thinks to herself, no, I just don't feel wanton right now. So again, it's the kind of thing makes me wonder if Tex just drew her in a slutty outfit, and Larry Hama just kind of rolled with it. So instead, she morphs into a nun. And, you know, Sabretooth's chasing her down. Like I said, he has her scent, so it doesn't matter what she changes into. Grabs onto the subway car. Awesome looking shot here, too. Like, all these pages have a pretty awesome looking shot on them, usually. To the point where that almost feels like the point. You know, there's a couple that are just kind of basic linking pages, that sort of thing, you know. I think back to, like, the Whilce Portacio advice on how to construct pages, where it's like, you know, pages are constructed of two kinds of things. Awesome stuff and boring stuff. And sometimes you have to draw a lot of the boring stuff. There's not a lot of boring stuff in this comic, I've got to say. Most pages have something that's awesome. You know, I think we're cutting to inside the car here. And yeah, she's like, just like cutting through the crowd while she's changed into the nun. I think this is Sabretooth on top of the car. Another fantastic looking shot with the low angle. I really like this thick line that he's got going around him. Every time he has to, like, you know, this is Tex doing both pencils and inks. So he's deciding pretty much completely what this thing looks like. And naturally, since it's Tex, he's, you know, taking a lot of opportunities to throw in a lot of heavy shadow, and it looks fantastic. Smashes his way into the train because, you know, he can pinpoint where she is based on her smell. And he keeps recognizing this smell, and he's kind of weirded out by that. So I'm not sure if he wasn't supposed to have met Mystique before this. I don't know about that. And when he comes closer, she takes on the form of his mother, which naturally kind of freaks him out. And he's more so just because he's like, why do you even know what that looks like? And we're going to get a flashback to Sabretooth's childhood, where he's in chains, and his dad has taken him out back out back behind the woodshed, because that's where you put down the animals. And I mean, as far as I can tell, at least in the memory, his father does take him out with an axe. And then he just kind of goes arg in present day. So this whole thing with the backstory with Sabretooth's childhood feels like it might or might not mean anything, because this is just what's going on in Wolverine around this time anyway. Where for the last couple of years, ever since Weapon X, really, they've been introducing the whole thing with memory blocks and fake memories and missing memories, and nobody's too sure what anybody's backstory is. So, I mean, this could be Sabretooth's childhood. It might not be. It might not have been anything like this. This might have been somebody else's. It might have been completely fabricated. Who knows? It's the one thing I'm not huge on with Wolverine comics in the early 90s, is so much of it was focused on, I have to investigate my past, and then he investigates his past and doesn't really find out anything. Finds out, like, he was in Vancouver in 1973. And, you know, why would he have been in Vancouver? It's like, who knows if he was? And none of it ever led anywhere, it felt like. And, I mean, part of this series feels like they're doing the same thing with Sabretooth. So that I'm not a huge fan of. I'll tell you what I am a fan of, though, is these goddamn pages, because this fucking stuff looks awesome. Again, another one of these gigantic shots of Sabretooth where he stretches out over like 3 panels. They just keep doing that shit. You know, like stuff like this as well. It's like almost the same thing, really. So maybe Texas found, you know, a way to get similar money to what, like, well, probably not Jim Lee and McFarlane and them, but like, you know, guys like Silvestri or Keown or something. Maybe he's found a way to, like, kind of match them for prices for pages, because these pages kind of rock. So, okay, Mystique's able to escape because she distracted him long enough with the maybe memory, maybe not. But what it has managed to do is it's managed to piss off Sabretooth even more. And she runs off in the direction of the Eiffel Tower, because we're in Paris. Where the hell else would you go? That's such a great looking shot, though. All right, so now we're kind of burying the lead here a little bit. We'll get to it. Sabretooth scaling up the outside of the Eiffel Tower, because why not if you can, just draw that, because it looks awesome when you do, and you uplight him. And he's yelling at Mystique the whole time, and she does seem to be able to hear him and respond. And he's like, how did you know about my ma? Was it Birdie? And Mystique says, you told me yourself. You whispered your darkest, bloodiest secrets to me in Berlin before you went into that secret program and had all the blocks put in. Which Sabretooth is surprised about. She says, oh, close that mouth of yours before you start catching flies. You could discuss this whole thing with my dinner date. He was in the same program with you. And then her dinner date shows up, says, I ain't much for John, darling. I'm going to let the adamantium do the talking. And it's Wolverine with his 3-foot-long claws. And that's where we're going to end things for this issue, on this just awesome splash of Wolverine in a tux. And these things are long enough where he could pretty much be using these as like a cane, just like a walking aid. But how many pages didn't have an awesome image on them? Because both of these ones do. That one does. I would say maybe these ones here, not so, well, this one not so much. This one at least has the big close-up on Sabretooth. Both of these are great. I'd say this one's got some pretty cool stuff going on in it. Yeah, almost every page has something awesome on it. That one had the giant shot of Sabretooth smacking a ninja in the face. These ones are a little iffy, but it's definitely less than a quarter of the book that has a fantastic anchor image. And then we get a poster by Michael Baer at the end here. That looks very different from everything that was going on in the issue. So, yeah, I have difficulty tracking down exactly what Michael Baer would have done in this, unless it was some of those backgrounds. I think that's good. That must be it. And then we get an ad for Dragon Strike. And this is how they sold Dragon Strike. They go, are you going to miss out on Dragon Strike? And they go, not a chance. Are you kidding? No way. And it's a gigantic shot of just kids standing there going, what are you fucking looking at? And then they're on a terrible painting, and they're so happy because they played Dragon Strike. They wasted 3 goddamn pages on that. Yeah, I think I had Dragon Strike too. So maybe that fucking ad worked. Okay, so that's it for Sabretooth number 2. It's a lot of fun. It's not quite as much fun as the first issue, I will say that, because that was just fucking crazy with hundreds of ninjas and mercs with bazookas. And a 13-foot tall Sabretooth just kicking everybody around the room. It was fantastic. Made a little bit less sense. There's a few places where it just felt like Tex felt like going. And, Larry Hama was just like, okay, I'm not even going to bother explaining what's going on here because I can't 100% tell. We're just going to pretend like the story's advancing at this point. And scene changes eventually happen. Sabretooth is in lots of different places over the course of the issue. It's not always clear how he's getting somewhere or why he's going there. But you know what? That's okay. It doesn't have to be clear so long as the pages are awesome. And almost all of them were. So yeah, kind of a mess, but a pretty awesome looking mess. So yeah, that gets a thumbs up for me, I think. So anyway, I might get back to Sabretooth number 3 later. I didn't think I was going to do number 2. So anything's possible at this point. So we'll just have to see. But for this one anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. It helps with all the algorithm stuff. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. I'm slurring everything because I'm still on them flu meds. And if you really want to help out, in the description, there's a link to my Patreon. And if you go subscribe there, that'll give you access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff, all the finished comics, all the pages, everything gets uploaded there. And a whole bunch of videos there. Also in the description, there's a link to the merch store, so that's where you get your Blood Force merch. You can also follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions. Commissions are now open. And I'll probably be on all sorts of other stuff very, very shortly, just flogging the Blood Force #1 Kickstarter. So I hope to God I've recovered a little bit for that, because, man, that's going to be exhausting. But for this one, anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks again for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.